I seek what belongs to me in truth. This can be an interesting concept, but it makes perfect sense when you say, for the fashion of the fact that peace and joy and love belongs to you in truth, and the reality of what that actually is. So there's a few different ways of understanding this, and I want to touch base on one that seems a little unusual in the definition of A Course in Miracles, but as I've also discussed with you previously about the dimensions a little bit, this, in the perspective, is the assistance of a higher dimensional being that's trying to help you to see the way in which thinking needs to be done in order to think in correspondence to the experience of an alternate dimension. So trying to understand it in the sense of in order to achieve, and the ending or the end of the race or the goal that you're trying to achieve, being peace and love and joy, is that you have to think in correspondence of it actually being available. If you're not thinking in correspondence that it's actually available, then you're not in the perspective, or can't really see that the perspective of that dimension is also available. So in the, say, higher realms of perspective of dimensions, say like a 9th, 10th dimensional being, or even just 7th, in the 5th, the perspective of recognizing that love and joy is not something that's out far, hard to reach. In fact, it's something that is quite literally right here and right now. And this is true about every single dimension, every single angle of looking at the same one thing. And that's what a dimension is that you're able to look at the same one thing, like a cube, differently. So a cube on the first dimension is really just a point of indeterminate size, right? Well, that's the 0th dimension. The first dimension is a line between 2 points. And then you got 4 points making a square for the 2nd dimension, even mathematically, right? And so without getting into too much detail about the dimensions, to put another 4 points making a cube, you got the 3rd dimension, physicality. Then you got the 4th dimension making this cube a beginning and an end, or a birth and a death, right? So in the same way, you're looking at that same one point differently. And so in your life is enveloped by these dimensions. So to look at your life in a different dimension requires that you think differently in order to recognize that it is there. And that essentially is what A Course in Miracles is about. So as this, you're seeking what belongs to you in truth, is referring to the truth in an alternate dimension. Of course, here, what would you say in your physical perspective is what belongs to you in truth? You say, oh, well, yes, everybody deserves freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all deserve healthy bodies. And some would say we all deserve free healthcare. Different variations like that that are associated to the dimension in which your perspective is focused on. Okay? So an alternate dimensional being, like, say, Jesus, as many proclaim that this course is from, in that sense of the perspective in which he's achieved, would try to help you to see and recognize the way in which he thinks, to think in the fashion of that alternate dimension. Okay? So in this sense, we'd like to also take this in a different fashion when we are focused, as we are, on this 3rd and 4th dimensional reality, physicality, and the time and thinking ego perspective that we so have in the 4th dimension. When we take it in that fashion, we like to associate these things to our worldly possessions, right? Just like we actually think we possess a body. In this idea of possessing a body, we come into this idea that our body then needs to possess things in order for we to be happy, in order for us to have joy, happiness, and of course love. We need to possess a relationship a partner in order to experience love. And these, yes, are true in physicality perspective, but they are not true in alternate dimensional perspectives, the majority of them. But even going into the fifth dimension, in which A Course in Miracles is attempting to help you achieve. So when we actually recognize what the connection and the oneness within the perspective of thinking and realizing, hey, love and peace is right here and right now, then we actually start to adjust our mindset, to change our mind, to quite literally seeing and opening the doorway to recognizing what, say, the fifth dimensional perspective has to offer. Okay? So as this is a journey of coming to know yourself, just remember that when you are coming to discover yourself, it means what you think of yourself right now will change. So when you think of yourself as right now, you can be depressed, but then you can be happy again. This is not what you are in truth. This is essentially, to think of it in that fashion is to say, well, what I am in truth is happy to be miserable, happy to be depressed, happy to be happy, happy to be, so you're always happy or joyously experiencing what you are, what you think is separate experiences, opposition. So in this physical perspective, you're still what you are in truth, joyously experiencing it. So it kind of helps you to change that dimensional perspective when you realize, yeah, okay, I'm miserable right now. I'm miserable right now. I don't like this. I'm depressed. Now, to take this lesson and say, I seek but what belongs to me in truth, God's gifts of joy and peace are all I want, is to recognize an alternate dimension in any sort, just a recognition. It doesn't matter what number. We don't need to concern ourselves with that. But in the sense of, I am joyously experiencing being miserable right now. No matter what it is, no matter what the secondary sensation is, I am joyously experiencing torture right now. I am joyously experiencing love right now. I am joyously experiencing this experience right now. You can see that you then come out of what is that miserable sense of realizing I'm actually enjoying being miserable right now. This is a first-hand experience of something that when you are, say, miserable or having a hard time, you can recognize that the laws of God are the only truth here. That in this alternate dimension, why am I choosing to be miserable? We don't realize that we are enjoying miserable. That's why we're choosing miserable. It's in the same sense of any experience. Now, if you didn't enjoy it, why are you choosing it? So, of course, this, again, is helping you to see an alternate perspective of yourself. It's an alternate, more in-depth version of who you actually are. You wouldn't be choosing something that you don't enjoy. So, of course, in this ego perspective of having opposition, it does seem that miserable is not joyous, right? Depression is not joyous. In fact, you're probably getting very upset at me if you experience depression often, and I'm sitting here telling you that you joyously feel depressed. I mean, of course. I mean, it would be absurd. It's an absurd idea to the ego perspective. Of course, in physicality, opposition, it's almost impossible to see. But you are not only the ego. You are not only this physical perspective. So grasp and recognize in the experience. Say you're feeling depressed right now. Go into that. Close your eyes. Go deep down, really feeling it, and try to recognize where are, say, what belongs to me in truth. Where are the attributes in me right now that the truth holds? Where am I feeling what I am feeling? It's a first-hand experience, and of course, it's as unique as you, and it's this labyrinth of your mind trying to figure out this maze where it is, but it's there. It's always been there. So I seek what belongs to me in truth in so many different ways. Can you understand this? And no matter what how you understand it is very helpful as the Spirit is guiding you to grasp it, to understand it. I just simply want you to recognize that no matter what you're feeling, no matter what you're experiencing, you are joyously experiencing it. In an alternate dimension, joy is the only thing that you can feel. Peace is the only thing that you can have, or whatever, the experience of it, who you are. These things are attributes that cannot change. That means you are, say, peacefully experiencing upset. You are joyously experiencing miserable. And you can, I'm speaking from first-hand experience, you can actually recognize it and quite literally turn everything you experience around from what you think is an opposite to it.